Okay, I think we're all set, and I hope the sound is fine. Just let me know otherwise. For you who haven't seen any of my streams before, my name is Mikael Klangeby, and I'm a 40k player in Sweden that focus on playing Deathwatch competitive. I've been playing now for almost 2 years, mainly Deathwatch for my competition. I have a few other armies as well, mostly for practicing. And it's been a good year so far. So I'm tonight talking about my latest tournament. That was the Games of Westeros that went off last weekend in Westeros. It was a 5-round GT, 92 players, and I finished in 3rd place after a draw in my final against Jonathan Slade Johnson. If the sound is too low, just write something in chat and I'll try to arrange it. Otherwise, I've done this format a few times before. I will go through my list first of all, and then through the missions and how I played it. So starting off going through the list, I made a few changes from before, so if you've seen my other streams you might recognize a lot, but there are some small changes and I will talk about them in the same way. I will put in a link so you can jump forward if you want to look at the actual secondaries, the different games. You can speed up and jump forward to that later on if you don't want to listen to me talking about the list. This tournament took place in my hometown Westeros. That's just about 100 kilometers west of Stockholm, and a lot of very good players in Sweden come to this tournament. My list that I took this time is a tweak from my GT, the Viking War Games that I played this summer, where I actually finished 1st place. With the new Nephilim book. So this is the 2nd tournament playing with these new set of rules. So I was happy being able to get such a good placement here as well, going in with a lot of more players and high competition. My list is Kills Team Strike Force, of course, the Army of Renown, because that's the most competitive list we can play right now. For my HQ, to start with, I play a battalion, only troops, 3 HQs, and this time I'm only starting with 1 CP, as you can see here. That's quite a big difference from last time, because in the previous tournament I wanted to start with 2. Because if I went first, I wanted to be able to play Specialism Extremis, having 3 CP round 1 if going first. A thing I learned from that tournament is in the new Nephilim war zone, we play our game a lot more passive. Our new secondaries makes our game rely on playing a bit defensively in the beginning. So not oftenly you want to go out there, throw yourself out and use that Specialism Extremis turn 1. Therefore dropping down to 1 CP is okay. If you go second, you will still have Specialism Extremis available, and if you go second, the enemy have moved towards you. So now you have 3 CP and he is in the open. So, but if you go first, with today's terrain, a lot of people hide and you won't use it turn 1 so often. So going down to 1 felt okay during this tournament, and I didn't need 3 CP round 1. That's about the CP. I tried to get up to 2000 points. It was 1997. I couldn't fit anything else in there. My HQs is the Librarian. I dropped the Phobos one to get another 10 points for using on my kill teams. Instead, I upgraded a Spectre Sergeant to bring Lord of Deceit. So it's just a pure librarian, no upgrades. He has Primorphic Resonance and Fortified with Contempt. He can cast 2 and deny 1. So he will be buffing 2 units depending on where they are on the game. If I'm charging something forward and I want it to stay alive, he will get both the buffs. So they have both the Feel No Pain and Fight First. And otherwise, if I'm splitting my forces, the most likely target that I want to survive, I will put the Feel No Pain on. Yeah, it's our 2 best spells. I've been thinking about maybe bringing an upgraded librarian so I can bring Mantle of Shadows as well. Because playing this more defensive game and depending on the terrain, you might want to be able to have something standing on objective in your backfield, scoring it, doing actions, and not being able to be targeted. And for that, Mantle of Shadows might be a very good choice. But right now, as my army is right now, I love the Primorphic Resonance and Fortified with Contempt. I don't think we can perform as good without them. I wouldn't drop the Psyker. I have never felt that I need to be able to play the secondary to hunt Psykers in Grey Knights or Thousand Suns. The buffs we get from it is far outweigh the possibility to play that secondary. Which one is most important, I would say, can depend. I would like most oftenly to get... thank you for saying the sound is working fine. I would say getting off the 5-up Feel No Pain is most important most of the times. Even though Fight First can be immensely powerful, it gives us a free interrupt. And with the big kill teams of 10 man, if you're charged from a sister or any MSU army that won't kill the whole unit, you still will have the fighting power left to interrupt for free when you have Fight First. And if you're facing someone with Fight Last, at least you get in the mid-teen now, because you have Fight First, he has Fight Last, you're in the mid bracket and you can use a normal interrupt for 2 CP, which can be good. So 2 very good powers, I wouldn't go without them. No, your Libby can cast 2 and deny 1. So the upgraded one will have +1 to cast, and you can bring 1 extra power, so that would be great as well. For my second HQ, I have the Primaris Chaplain on bike. He's been a key unit in my army all the time. He has Recitation of Focus and Canticle of Hate. What's the last name? Yeah, and Litany of Fate, of course. That's the basic one. The things he can do, he can give +1 to hit in shooting. He can reroll all hits in melee. Or you can have the aura for +2 on your charge and +3 to your pile-in and consolidation. This enables our kill teams to move forward and easily engage with the enemy. You can string out those 10-man kill teams, moving them forward as White Scars with advance and charge, and then have +2 to your charge. And having those 3 extra inches on your pile-in makes all of the units reach the combat more easily. He also has a Warlord trait, Optimized Priority, and this is an aura, because nowadays we have so few units in our army, and a lot of things in the new Nephilim Warzone comes around to doing actions. You want to be able to raise banners, and sometimes the mission secondary, the progressive one, is also that you're gonna plant bombs or do some action, scan an objective, and being able to shoot with that part of your army that are doing the action can be key sometimes, and doing that for free is very good. Also, he has the Beacon Angelis, so he will be able to scoot up 20 inches, use the beacon, pull up the big Indomitor kill team, that is going to be a very big brick, and with a 5-up feel no pain, they are not so easily shifted, especially standing in cover. So they can be pulled up, they can shoot and do an action. Maybe cripple stronghold, raise a banner or something at it. So he's a key unit. He has a lot of things that we have great use of for this army in all missions. Last but not least, the Watchmaster. He was a new addition in my last tournament and he worked out very fine. The changes I made for this tournament is that he brings the Tomb of Ectoclades. And playing the missions more defensively, he will not have to move so far up with the army, because we're playing most of the game between our deployment and the mid-board, so he can only move up in cover, boosting something with full rerolls, maybe the big Indomitor brick that is pulled forward. And maybe turn 1 you can string out both your Indomitor teams so they are within 6 inches. Choose a datasheet for your tomb and have all your things shoot at that. Both Indomitors, the small bolters in your 2 other kill teams, and maybe even your last fusils. So now you're shooting so much at one datasheet, rerolling all wounds, and will do a lot of damage. And you will start farm CP for later on in the game, where you want to do your Specialist Extremis maybe next turn to break the neck of your army, your opponent. So he's a great addition. He also has the cool stratagem that you can give out fight last and D3 mortal wounds towards enemy knights or other vehicles, which is a cool thing. He also has a 2-up save from the beginning, so standing in cover he has quite the resilience, and a 4-up invulnerable. And his spear is quite good in melee as well. So that are my HQs. Moving down, everything is troops. So we have OBSEC everywhere except for these 3 guys, which is great for missions today. My first troop choice is as before in the last tournament. I'm playing 1 big Indomitor kill team that is heavy intercessors with heavy bolt rifle and 5 Inceptors. The reason I take this team in this configuration is that these guys are not advancing and shooting. These guys are being pulled up by the Beacon Angelis. They put out 40 shots, 2 each from these guys and 6 each from these 5 guys. So 40 shots. The big thing here is these guys can go up to AP2. So Armor of Contempt will bring you down to AP1. But still, now Marines and other things are saving on a 4-up. And when you're shooting 40 shots and hitting with everything almost, you're doing 40 wounds, and saving that on a 4-up is great. They might be standing in cover. Yeah, they might be standing in cover, but you can always make these guys Imperial Fist and ignore cover, and also get exploding 6s. One thing you have to think about is how the rules are written, that the 6s you get are actually you have to roll to wound for those. So they are extra hits, but those will not out to wound if you read the rules correctly. So you will probably get around 45 shots off with exploding 6s, but you will out to wound 40, and then you have to roll to wound the rest of the 5. But with strength 5, maybe hitting a hard target, wounding on 5s, rerolling 1s if it's against the target you choose for your Aquila. So still, you're gonna get some extra wounds. But the AP2 is key here, because you will still have AP1 against things with Armor of Contempt, and also against a lot of Tyranids or Custodes that has that 2-up save. You will bring that up to a 4-up as well. So everything you shoot at will be saving on a 4-up or worse. So this is a great unit and does a lot of firepower and damage. And they do that even though you don't have Specialist Extremis, because when you're shooting 40 shots at strength 5 AP2, they will do damage, especially when rerolling 1s against the datasheets. And when you do Tomb of Ectoclades, you have a lot of damage coming out here as well. So a great unit, and they can take a lot of punch. You have the stratagem to get a 2-up save against damage 1 weapons. You have the 5-up Feel No Pain from our Psyker. They can stand in cover, they can do transhuman. That is quite expensive for 2 CP when they're a total brick, but these will not be shifted as easily. A lot of people think they can shoot it off the board easily, and they invest in it, and they in the end see that maybe 4 interceptors are still alive, and they wasted a turn trying to remove a key unit. Meanwhile, you moved up your kill teams ready to charge, and these guys can just stand there doing actions now and still shoot something. So a great team. My second Indomitor, also Aquila. And talking about Aquila, you choose one for your army and then one extra. And I try to see which is most in line with the mission. Not the most important unit for the enemy army maybe. Maybe I see that this army doesn't have a lot of obsec and he has 3 troop units. I might be wanting to reroll once against the troops so I can clear them off the board more fastly and easily, instead of maybe picking some high value target for my second reroll. So Aquila is great, having those 2 different ones that you invest from the beginning. The second team is upgraded from the tournament in Norrköping when I had Flamer Aggressors and only 1 Inceptor. Now I bring 2 Inceptors instead, so I have more range when I try to move this brick, and they still have a lot of AP and shoot with great range, 18. And I switched out the Flamers. 2 reasons for this. Mainly, you get 18-inch range, so now you have a better range when you're moving up targeting. But also, the rules for our specialism extremists are debated on all forums, and showing up to a tournament and have a rule that is sometimes questioned is not great, especially when you're playing a great GT like this. It's a big event, 100 players. You don't want to be questioned there about a rule. Bringing these Ballstorm aggressors, I know they work, because I don't have to think, are Flamers allowed? Will the TO allow it? They are bolters. I don't have to think about it. So I doubled up on that one. Better range, and there is no question if the specialist extremists will work or not. And this team is great because in this one I have the assault bolter variant on the heavy intercessor. So they shoot 3 shots each, and then you have all the extra bolt shots from the aggressors and the 2 inceptors. So this team put up more shots, but not so great AP. But there are more shots, and still AP1 when they're in tactical, and these guys has AP2 as well. And that can be great when you're facing maybe Harlequins. You don't need a AP at all, but you just want more shots. So this team is better to handle some targets where you don't need so much AP. And with Tomb of Ectoclades, you can use both teams. Just string out with the Inceptors and get in within 6-inch range of the Watchmaster, and still the rest of the team can shoot. So a great addition. The 3 aggressors also, they can pack a punch when you get into melee. I will almost save the aggressors for last, letting the rest of the guys die first, taking the wounds, and save at least 2 aggressors, maybe 1 Inceptor for fallback and shoot. The aggressors have 4 attacks each when they charge, which is great, and they still have strength 8, damage 2, and AP 3 going up to AP 4 when you were in the assault doctrine. Both these teams I didn't mention. I keep them as 10 bricks because they get more resilient. In the last war zone that I totally forget the name of now, before this summer, I played this team split. I had maybe 4 aggressors and 1 inceptor, which I deep strike a lot, and then I had these 5 guys standing on the home objective. And because in that war zone, I played a lot of different secondaries. I played a lot of going behind enemy lines, getting in their backfield and deploy teleport homer, which was great for us. Only 1 obsec model was needed. If he was in their deployment, you got 4 points. and it was finished the same round. So in that game you needed the deep strike in another way, and more units, being able to put them out there. Now we play a lot more in our backfield, moving up to midboard, and you want to be resilient, standing there and being able to pick off units. So I keep these guys at 10 bricks, and I did that during all the matches in this tournament, and the last one, I think. Moving forward, getting to the melee teams, I have 2 Proteus kill teams, both Dominatus, which I might switch, but I don't have the points really. And maybe I would like to switch one so I can choose Knights and Dedicated Transport for the full rerolls to wounds. Having both in Dominatus is great if you face a lot of enemies with elites, but being able to choose another datasheet would be more preferably, I think. So that is something I'm looking forward to try to change in the future. But right now they were played as Dominatus, so if I choose elites for the main thing for the army, these guys will have full rerolls to wounds during that battle. But during this tournament I faced Harlequins twice, and they only bring 2 datasheets, which is dedicated transports or troops. So then I didn't need the Dominatus at all. But then it would have been nice with dedicated transport. Yeah, just hitting those fast moving transports. The 2 teams are a bit different. This one is my fast team doing more damage. It costs a little bit more. This is 323 compared to 319 for that one. The big difference in this team is that if you look over here, I have 3 Heavy Thunderhammer jump pack unit vanguards and the sergeant. So you're packing 4 Heavy Thunderhammers and 3 jump pack units, which means this one has more mobility. It will be faster and it will have a lot more punch. So the bike can advance up, 2 of these behind, so you get 2 within 2, and this one can keep up easily. So now you get a full movement, which is great. And then the rest of the unit will string out. And then when you get that +2 on the charge and +3 on the pile-in and consolidation, the rest of the guys are just moving in with the team. I got 3 of these guys, and these are mainly to take up damage while moving forward. They will be standing in cover, preferably. They have some bolters, and getting all these small bolter shots, you have 4 Deathwatch bolters and the bike. They can help. They can chip wounds off, especially when playing against some kind of Eldar army that doesn't have a great save. They have a toughness 3. Every shot counts, and you can chip off wounds, which can be immensely important when you're facing a lot of bodies and not big ones. And being able to choose the ammunition, maybe +1 to wound if you're shooting at a big target, and then full reloads to wound with help of the Tomb of Ectoclates, then you can do some damage to knights as well. Or maybe damage to full reloads to wounds if you're shooting at something that doesn't make you minus in damage. But as you see here, you have 3 Heavy Thunderhammers on the vanguards. So a lot of Heavy Thunderhammer attacks, and then also the sergeant. So a lot of Heavy Thunderhammers, and when playing a Xenos army, you can have also +1 attack, and suddenly you have a lot of attacks. This is great into Tyranids, it's great into Knights, and when you're facing another Marine army like Thousand Suns, or maybe now a Chaos Marine with a lot of Terminators, we actually can't shoot any Terminators to death. But Terminators, they are elites. And when you bring flat damage 4, AP 4 Heavy Thunderhammers with full rerolls to hit and full rerolls to wound, Terminators die. So don't think how you can shoot the Terminators. The Terminators will have to die in melee if you have to face them. So that's why you want one team of Dominatus being able to have all these Thunderhammer hits into enemy Terminators, Death Guard as well. So this one is very fast, bike moving up, 2 vanguards, string out 2 inch behind, and then this guy 2 inch behind those 2, and the rest of the team come up. The next one, a bit cheaper and more resilient. It only has 2 Vanguard veterans with jump axe and heavy thunderhammer, and 1 sergeant. Still a lot of heavy thunderhammers, of course, because they do so much damage. And the black shield, I didn't mention him. He's in here as well. The black shield, he has so many attacks. And the stratagem that gives you the possibility to have heroic intervention as well makes them a threat when defending objectives as well. But he has 4 attacks on the datasheet when you have 2 melee weapons, which is great. And then you charge, you get 5, and then 6 with your extra chainsword. So a 6 attack model is so great. And then you put the stratagem when on Cena's 7 attacks. Insane. But the difference here, 2 jump packs, but instead I bring a Terminator. So this team is a bit slower, but they can survive better. So this one can be standing in cover together with these guys, and you have more models to take the punch. He's a 1-up saving cover and a 5-up inbuilt. So many people are questioning the shields. The shields are great because there are still a lot of things out there that has a lot of AP, and having that 4-up when you're rolling hot on that one, this team survives like gods. So, and especially with a 5-up Feel No Pain as well. So I wouldn't. 3 shields are great, and I have that in both the teams. The Terminator here is also great into some matchups, but also having 3 Vanguard veterans is also great. So hard to choose there, which is the most, which is the best team. So I bring 1 of each. I can't decide. But one has to be changed to the keyword that is dedicated transport Lord of War instead of Dominatus on both. So that I need to fix. My last team is the Spectre skill team, bringing 5 eliminators with last few seals because they are free now. We don't pay any extra for the last, and they have a great datasheet, having that flat damage 3 with AP 3, hitting on 2s. So great. Venator is against fast attacks. I took that because I think there are some armies like Necrons have a lot of fast attacks, which has, I think, 3 wounds as well, maybe, on those, what are they called, the fast ones with a 4-up invul. I lost the name of them. But both Dominatus and Aquila were taken, and this is cheap, so, and I have to take one. So that's why they have that one. This is the only team I combat squad. So I combat squad them like this. You have one team which has the sergeant, who has 3 wounds. Remember that can be key in some instances when someone is shooting at this team. You might be able to survive with 1 wound here, or maybe when they're shooting with damage 2, he will take 2 shots on him, which is great. He also packs the Lord of Deceit, and I think that is key when I'm forward deploying these units. Maybe on some maps you want to be able to forward deploy on especially maybe Data Scry. You can string out these teams so they tag both the mid objectives, so you are holding all 4 objectives in your first command phase. And as the rule is written on that map, if you're holding an objective in your command phase, it's sticky objective. So you string out both these teams standing on all 4 objectives in the middle, and if you go first, yeah, you have tagged, you have all the objectives in the middle. And now maybe you went with Crippled Stronghold, you can also do the action easily, because you can reach all 4 easily. It doesn't matter which one you choose. So this team is combat squadded. And Lord of Deceit makes it possible to relocate them back to our backfield or into deep strike if we go second and we want to save the units that we forward deploy in the beginning. Being able to forward deploy is quite key on some missions. But as I talked about before, most of our secondaries now, we play a defensive game because we're going with Long Vigil and we're going with banners or Crippled Stronghold. So we're playing the game in our backfield most of the times. But sometimes You want to be able to do the progressive thing. You want to be able to deny him points. So having forward deploy and the redeploy possibility, I think, is key. I've used it a lot. I use it every game. If I go second, I redeploy back. If I go first, they are out there being able to do things in turn one. And you can also threaten his deploy and force him to think that, oh, those last fuses are standing so far up, threatening all this part of my deployment. I cannot put anything important here, and you screen off some of his deployment. So if you place them very aggressively early, psychologically, you can steer him in his deployment to play more defensively and being slower out in the field. So you can use them as a threat and then redeploy them back to your backfield, screen out the backfield so he can't deep strike. Because when you have at least one infiltrator model, like here I have the Helix Gauntlet, so these guys have an immense staying power, all the units here get the 12-inch deep strike denial as long as he is there, and in this team the same. And these guys standing in cover has a 1-up save, and negating the first damage thanks to the Helix Gauntlet makes them very resilient. Being able to put smoke, being able to transhuman, well, these are very hard to shift. So they are great for playing the mission, screening out your backfield, and also putting in some damage with the last few souls. And that was the list, and some things around it. So first 30 minutes, I will now make a mark down so you can easily jump here from the beginning, and now we will start talking about the actual tournament and some secondary plays and stuff like that. If you have any questions during when you watch this or maybe now, just write to me, either Mikael KLA, that is Mikael Kla, I have like a mountain bike helmet in Facebook Messenger, or you can just write down here in the comments or in the Discord chat Mikael KLA there as well in the Deathwatch forum, and I happily answer any questions. As I've been talking about during the run through, I will try to make some changes. I want to change one of the Dominators into the one I don't remember the name of, being able to choose Lord of War and Dedicated Transport for one of my melee teams. Otherwise, I'm quite happy with the result. One upgrade that would be cool would be to make the Psyker +1 to cost and bring 1 extra power, so I can use Mantle of Shadows in some missions. But it's a question of points. It's hard to find it out. And we'll have to see what happens when maybe the AOR goes away during New Year's Eve as well, and how we're going to play the missions then. But right now, AOR is very strong. I love it, and this is a very strong list. Being able to do an immense lot of firepower, Malleus, thank you. Malleus, it's cool. A lot of damage and a lot of staying power as well. And it's fast and very flexible. Okay. This weekend's tournament, or now 2 weeks ago, Games of Westeros was, as I told you in the beginning, 92 players. It's a 5-round event in 2 days. They used the VTC FAQ, but they didn't use the new rule for charging things in terrain +2. That rule was ignored. So the new I think most tournaments ignore that rule that was dropped here in the last FAQ, but it wasn't used here as well. But VTC FAQ and the tables were, as last time at Game of Westeros, about half the tables are GW terrain, you know, the big plexiglass squares and ruins around, as they are shown on their website, and the other half are WTC terrain with some very big L-shaped ruins, containers, dense cover all around. So quite good cover. These were the missions: tear down the icons, data scry, secure missing artifacts. They're quite common. And then they wait with both the conversion and death and seal day 2. Those are the one with the round square in the middle, and you're starting in 2 separate corners going towards each other. So you're starting quite close to each other. To even out the scores, they use the scoring system where you convert your battle points into a 20-0 game. So if you have a difference of 0 to 4 battle points between you and your enemy, you get a draw, and each player gets 10 points for that game. And then depending on how much you win in battle points, if you win the game with 50 battle points over your opponent, you get 20-0. So winning big when you're playing great players are harder. If you're playing against a great player and you win a game and get 94 points and he gets 86, you both get quite high scores, but you win and get high score. In this case, it will be 12-8. You have a win, but only 2 bonus points, and he gets 8. So you're not advancing as fast. So it's harder to score if you don't win big. Day 1, first mission, tear down their icons. You have quite big deployment zones, and there's 5 objectives. My first matchup was against Sisters, and Sisters is a very potent army right now. They have some great buffs. They have Armor of Contempt. They have a lot of firepower. They move quite fast, and they have some great secondaries. So quite an hard opponent. As you can see here, it was a GW terrain board. Me starting over here and him starting over here. He went with his traditional Leap of Fate, Sacred Ground, and Defend the Shrine. And this was his shrine to defend. So I tried to invest in going towards that to take it down. When choosing my secondaries, I think in most games I do the same. Because it's easy if you have a battle plan that works no matter what enemy you're facing. That is true for most armies. I have one exception. And I play Long Vigil in all my games I can. Except for Harlequins, because they move so fast. So they will deny you that every turn. But otherwise, it's such a great secondary. You will easily get 12 points. Most of the times 15. Because you will force your enemy to come to you, and all you have to do is screen out your deployment. And stand there. And score 4 points every round. They can't get in. And it's wholly within your deployment now. Starting from round 2. So unless you're facing a very fast army with a lot of units he can throw away, that can go all over and into your deployment and survive. They don't have to charge, they can move in without charging. Then you can go with Long Vigil. The problem is with Harlequins, they have 8 to 10 transports that can fire and fade. So they can move and advance up and shoot and then fire and fade. And now you have a boat in your deployment which didn't have to charge you, and now you only will kill an empty transport next round, and he denied you 4 points. So against Harlequins you can't go Long Vigil, otherwise I haven't had any problems. And it's so great because it will force your enemy to come to you, and you can stay back and choose your second secondary, which will be banners, because banners is an easy 10, and most of the games it will be higher, because round 1 you will be racing these 2 objectives. You have your forward deploy maybe here, and maybe here as well. If you don't need to, you have it back here to screen. And then you will be scoring 2 points every round and 2 extra in the end for a 10 on banners and a 15 on Long Vigil. So now you have 2 easy secondaries, which will work in most games against most opponents, and it won't force you to be so aggressive in the early game. And with a lot of great cover, you can play passively and force him to come to you, because he needs to deny you Long Vigil, or you might be winning the game. And on these maps, on primary, you will score 8 every round as well, holding these 2 objectives. If you're going second, then you know you have an easy 12 in the last round as well, just hitting one of his objectives and getting that 12 in the last round. So, as I talked about during the arm setup, we have a lot of playing in Nephilim more defensively is very easy with the Deathwatch army. And we can start farm our CP. The last pick for our secondaries might differ, but it will be a kill one. Now facing Sisters, I know he is an MSU army. He has a lot of more units than I will, and he will try to come to me. So grind them down, as you can see. In this game I went first. I didn't expose myself. That is why I didn't get any points in round 1, but otherwise he was exposed and I could kill easily more units than he could kill for me, so I get 12 on grind. So in the end I only lose 4 points in this game because I get 1 extra banner up quite early in the games, and I score a 14 on banners, 15 on long vigil and 12 on grind. So at 96 in total. And Sisters don't have so long range. They have 24 almost. This tank had better range, but so he actually has to come out if you want to try to damage you. And when you're playing passive, he has to expose himself, and then they die because they are not so resilient when you start shooting like 60 bolter shots with strength 5 AP2, ignoring cover. You don't need a specialist in extremis. They are still dying easily from that shooting, and especially when you're going into combat as well with the combat teams, they also do a lot of damage. So Sisters are scary. They have so many buffs and rules, but if you play the passive game, let them come to you, start scoring on long vigil and banners, and then try to kill them. So long vigil, banners and grind is a great setup for many games, and especially against Sisters. So this was my first win. It was 20-0 because the difference was more than 50 points. And then I had to face another player that went 20-0, and I faced off with one of the WTC team from Sweden, Alex Rydén, playing his Harlequins. And as I was talking about, Harlequins is a hard matchup. They have a great army, a lot of speed, they do insane amount of damage, they are fast, and they play their secondary game so well. So it's a very hard matchup. And now we can't rely on our long vigil and banners in the same way. So against the Harlequins, I went with, in this matchup, because it's this map, I went with their Xenos, so Suffer Not Alien, because they have a lot of units, like 20 to 24 maybe, and you will have to kill them, so you will get 15 points on that one. I went with Crippled Stronghold because it's very good on Data Scry. All the objectives are here in the middle. He has to choose one of these, and you can reach all of them easily. This map is not good for banners because you can only raise this one easily. The rest will be easily taken down, and then you will lose it for a whole turn before you can raise it and start scoring it again. So Data Scry is not optimal for banners. So that's why on Data Scry I often go Crippled Stronghold, because you can move up on the objective and then do the action. And when you have the chaplain near, you can still shoot. So I deploy my Spectre skill team, I string them out between like this and these, holding all, and the rule says it's sticky if you're standing on them in your command phase. So now you're having all the objectives even though you move off during your first turn. If you go second, you might redeploy back to save the unit. But moving up on these later on and start do Crippling Stronghold is more easy on this than banners. So in this actual game I went with Suffer Not Alien, Crippled Stronghold, and for my last one I chose Codex Warfare. Because you need to have one more, and it's hard to find because all the other great ones are in No Mercy, No Respite as well, like this one. Maybe you could think about going shock tactics and try to steal objectives from him. He will also be out there on the game trying to have objectives, and we have a lot of obsec, so we can steal them back. But Codex Warfare is an easy 10, because 2 rounds you will be in tactical and you will kill a lot of units, and 3 rounds you will be in assault, killing a lot of units, and you will max out on 10. If you get lucky and you have a turn where you think you can do heavy as well, you might do heavy. Use your last fusil to chip off maybe 1 unit for 2 points. And then you use the stratagem that converts one of your shooting team to heavy 1. And if you think about it, you get heavy 1 for each weapon. So the bolter interceptors will be shooting 2 heavy ones, 2 shots. And your heavy interceptors, heavy intercessors have a bolt rifle and a bolt pistol. But the pistol changed to heavy 1, so it's no longer a pistol. So they also have 2 shots. So now you have 20 shots from that 10 unit. And all 6s are mortals as well, capping out on 6. So they can easily kill a target as well. And then you get 4 extra points during for Codex Warfare as well. So now against Harlequins, you're doubling up on killing them. So Codex Warfare and Suffer Not Alien both are kill the enemy. And they will be coming towards you because they want to kill you as well. So doubling up on that is great. And Cripple Stronghold, because I wanted to do it. He chose here, if you look at the map, this is his deployment, there is mine, and I went first. So I had my Spectres team here, and I moved up my chaplain and brought up my big Indomitor block. He had some boats standing here, and I shot them to pieces, and then all these guys ran out towards me. But being able to shoot and do the action round 1 is great. And then he had a hard time shifting me off this objective, and he put pressure over here. So I actually managed to do it all rounds I needed to for a full 15 on Cripple Stronghold. And I won the game. It was a more even game because it's a very hard army, a lot of killing. So it was 80 to 68. Last game, day 1, was on secure missing artifacts. That's the one where you move the objectives. As you can see here, we have moved the objectives after deploying. Not after deploying, but before we started to deploy. And this can work in your favor depending if you go attacker or defender. You have to think about what you're playing for secondaries and what secondaries he is playing, and try to move the objective to fit your game the best way. In my way, I play, my battle plan is long vigil and banners. I'll be standing here, forcing him to come to me, scoring a full 15 maybe on our long vigil, and 10 on banners. As you can see, it ended 15 on long vigil and 12 on banners. And this is a Xenos foe, and he has quite a lot of units. I will be trying to kill things that he shows. So Suffer Not Alien is a great last secondary towards him. And as you saw, I got at least 10 on Suffer Not Alien as well. This was an opponent that I faced in Norrköping in the final. So he this time had a better suited list to handle Deathwatch, and he also knew a lot about my tactics and my army, because I almost played the same army as I did in Norrköping, and he did some tweaks. So still, he had the special character, big railgun guy, and 2 other hammerheads and a transport. But he had a big crisis suit unit that does us so much damage. And that is hard, because you can't charge right into it. Oh yeah, I can come back to the cripple secondary in a second. I will elaborate on that one. This army is great against bringing down hard targets. But towards my army, these guys will not do so much damage. So the big piece that I was afraid of was the big crisis suit, which I needed to kill. And I tried to lure it out, and when he was standing here, I brought out my big shooting team here and did a Specialism Extremis and shot it off the board. And then I could charge the rest of his army. So I wanted to shoot off his big crisis suit, because if you're charging them and they're firing Overwatch with all those plasma hitting on 5+, your melee team will die. So don't try to charge them. You can charge them from cover, like standing here, and charge through the wall. But I preferred shooting them to death. Backing up here to elaborate on this. Cripple Stronghold is great because we can do it with our Spectres team, and here I have the big sniper team that I use for damage, and I took the other team here who is just standing in cover, maybe can do some ship wounds, and they can try to do the Cripple Stronghold every turn. I doubled up because I knew he was trying to get me off the objective, so I doubled up, bringing up the big Indomitor brick here, so I now have 10 Indomitor bodies, T5, 3 wounds, standing in cover, defending this objective. A lot of obsec, and as long as the chaplain's here, they can shoot and do the action, as long as I hold the objectives. So all these 15 guys were standing here most of the game, trying to survive and do the action mainly, and try to clear off things he threw at these guys. And these guys can survive pretty good in combat as well. And towards Harlequins, I should say as well, I always try to bring, when they start doing damage, I play defensively with the veterans of the Long Vigil. I choose Black Temporals, and then the other guy, the other successor chapter, I don't know the name, that also gives you. So you can have a 5-up Feel No Pain against Mortal Wounds 2 rounds, which is great against Harlequins, so you can survive more easily. So I invest quite a lot in this corner to have this objective and to score my Cripple Stronghold. And that will either pull his army in this direction and leave all this for me to just own it, or he needs to award it, correct. Or he needs to split his army to try to push here, but then he can't get me off here, making Cripple Stronghold more easily. So that's how I play that. Back here, game 3 against the Tau army. So Tau, we have great secondaries into Tau. We can play the defensive game, we can stay in cover, and then slowly just move up our kill teams and start hitting him in combat. I focused quite a lot on bringing down their obsec and their damage piece, the big suit, the crisis suit. That is the key targets. The rest of the army, I'm not so interested in killing, because he tried to save these guys because he wants to have them. So I just scored a lot in my first 4 rounds, and then when he tried to move up, my scoring were so far ahead, so we couldn't caught up, because I denied him so well in the beginning, especially on primary, as you can see. So, but it was a quite tight game. He knew so much more about my army. He knew my tricks, and that is something that is greatly in our favor otherwise, because I don't like to play gotcha moments. I always run through my army quite in detail before the game, and I remind my opponent during the game that I can do an heroic here if you come near my black shield. Watch out for my threat range here. I try to be honest. We have so much we can do, so it's impossible for an opponent to know everything. But telling them all these things during the game will give them it will be we will be psyching them, because you will be scaring them. Watch out for this, watch out for this. And they don't know how much punch we have or the resilience. But facing an opponent that you have faced before, that knows your army, was much harder. He played a much better game now, and he has more comfort in his playing towards me, and he knew my army very well. But still, our second game was better, and his army is not tailored to handle Deathwatch. It's more tailored to handle knights and big chunky things with these railguns. So day 1, finishing off 3-0 in the games. Felt quite well, because I wanted to go at least 3-2. I wanted to go 4-1, but having 3 wins day 1 was a good feeling. But not so high score, you see. This was a quite tight game, 92-73, and this one also 80-68, so no high scores so far. Day 2, Mission 4, Conversion. And these are these maps where you have quite a tight battlefield starting 18 inch from each other. And now I'm facing an army that I never faced before, Chaos Space Marine with their new codex. And he were Slanesh, I think, Empress Children, something. So he had a lot of things for going for melee and fight first, and yeah, a very hard army. So reading up on it, I felt like I cannot charge into this. I don't know what I need to kill, and he will swing back very hard, because everything that dies has the possibility to swing back at you when it's dead. So I actually choose the way to play this game very passively. And to my favor, he did as well, because he didn't know how much damage I could do. So this was the most passive game. I was most nervous for this game during the whole tournament, because I didn't know his army at all, or the power it had. So this was a very stalemate. We were standing on each side, just scoring. So I took, again, long vigil and banners. I thought, yeah, I stand here, he needs to come to me, I hold these two for banners. And then, sadly, I picked color order, which sucks. I'm never taking it again. Maybe in some matchup it might be good, and I felt like this. He's gonna try to charge me with all his elites. I can kill them if he charges me. He only has 2 fast attacks. Those 2 fast attacks are gonna die. But he didn't charge me, and I only killed one of the fast attack, and the other one survived with maybe 2-3 wounds, and he pulled it back to his backfield. So in hindsight, I should have gone with grinding down, or maybe prisoners. I knew I was probably gonna ship off some of his units, and he tried to charge me with some the mutated one. Don't remember. They have a lot of attacks. He charged this objective, and he had all his cultists standing here. So grind would have given me at least some points in hindsight. But still, this game I went second, and I knew if I just play this very passive game, I can in the end hit him in round 4, bring him down to a 4 in the last round, and then in my round 5 scoring a 12, because we're going second. So that was my battle plan, playing for the long game, slowly scoring on long vigil and banners, and if he attacks me, I can probably kill him when he is in my mid of my army. I deployed so far back in my backfield, so he couldn't do a turn 1 charge. He had his terminators, and they could advance and get 6 out advance and 6 on the charge, so they had an immense threat range. But I deployed very far back. And the whole game we were standing there on each side and just looking at each other. And in the end I just won barely, because I could be able to come here in round 4 with one of my melee teams, cut it down his banner, and steal one of his objectives. So he had a 4 in round 5, and I got my 12 here. And that brought down one of his banners as well, so he only got a 1 here. And I could raise an extra. So my most passive games, I don't know how I'm gonna handle Chaos Space Marines in the future either. They have so much melee, and I think it's better to play a passive game towards these guys. But color order, no. In some matchups it might be good. In the case you're facing an army which has a lot of different like elites, fast attacks, transports and everything, and maybe just have one rhino that is dedicated transport, and maybe one fast attack that is gonna try to score his mission, yeah, then you might be able to score those 8 points getting those 2 data sheets down. But it's very tailored, and it has to be against the right army, where he doesn't have anything that is better. Like here, I should have gone with grind. My last game was against Jonathan Slade Johnson, which is now the WTC captain for the Swedish WTC team for the next year. He's ranked number 1 player in Sweden, so a very great opponent, playing also a Harlequin army. That is very tough. So going into this game, I was very nervous. I didn't think I'm gonna win, but I wanted to lose as little as possible and do my best to try to impress him and do a great game. But psychologically, he knew I'd beaten Alex Rudén, who is also a WTC player playing Harlequins, in game 2. And I did win with maybe 12-8, so he knew my army have some powers into him. So he was in... he didn't know actually how to handle the army easily. This was a very bloody game. I think in the end he had 1 model left, one of his Shadow Seers. And I didn't have so many models left either, just a few models there. And we almost clocked out. We had like maybe 2 minutes left of the game time when we finished the game. As you can see on the secondaries here, I write the one who goes first up. I made that wrong. He went first. And against him I did the same. I doubled up on killing. So Suffer Not the Alien and Codex Warfare. For a certain 15 and 10, which is great. That is 25. And then on the last one, on this map, instead of like on the other game against Harlequins, I was on the Data Scry, where all the objectives are in the middle like this, and they are as far away as possible. It's easy to reach all of them. Here, if you go Cripple Stronghold, he will choose this one. So now you will just throw things away over here, which he can easily kill. And you can't defend your backfield, or it's harder. But taking banners here and force him to come to you is much more easy, especially with the terrain setup. You can see here it's a GW terrain, so I can stand inside this ruin here, totally in cover, and score my banner, and here as well. So very easily. These guys are obscuring when you're standing behind them. So just deploying here and forward deploying one of my Spectre skill team here. I brought both of them in here so they would have more staying power. And yeah, played on banners. Banners didn't work out so well. He actually charged over here turn 1. He didn't kill off everything, but still he had more models, so I couldn't raise the banner in round 1 here, only this one. And then in round 2 I could get it up. But as you see on the secondaries, my banners scored at least a 10 anyhow, because I in round 4 could do a lot of tricks raising 2 banners in my round found, this one and this one as well. So I got a 4 in when you calculate in the end. So banners worked out fine, and Suffer and Codex Warfare again against Harlequins. This game ended up being a draw, so 10-10, and that was in my favor, and I was very happy scoring a draw on this game. It felt like I was gonna lose when we were getting closer to the end, and it was very high tension in the end because we both wanted to win, of course, but I was so happy getting a draw. And it made me finish in 3rd place, because then I had 4 wins and just 1 draw, and my total score ended me up in 3rd place. So that was a great success for me, especially with the great competition I was facing. And that was it for the actual tournament. And try to see if I haven't addressed all the questions I've gotten for here. We talked about the spells for the Psychers. I had some questions about that. My second favorite secondaries are Long Vigil and Banners, because they are so easily to score together on most missions. So those are my favorites. And the last one is a kill one, depending on the army you're facing. Suffer Not Alien is great, a lot of Xenos out there. Grind Them Down is great. Take No Prisoners is great. So we have a lot of choices there. Or if you're facing Knights, yeah, the new one, Bring It Down against Knights, is also great. So the third one isn't that hard, actually. But into some armies, like Chaos Space Marines, you have those two, Long Vigil and Banners, but you need a third one. They also maybe they don't have that many wounds. The prisoners isn't that great. Maybe just a 6 on prisoners if you table them, which you're not going to do. And then Grind, he also has a few units. But maybe if you play defensively, you can still always kill one from him, and he might not kill one for you every round. So maybe aiming for a 9 in Grind is great against one of those armies. But Grind is great against MSU armies. So like Eldar, Sisters and stuff like that. Maybe Tyranids as well, if they have a lot of different. When you choose chapter tactics with Veterans of the Long Vigil, do you prefer offensive or defensive choices? Depending on how I'm going to play the game and what army I'm facing. So it's very situational. It can vary a lot. In rounds where I really need to do some damage, I would go with, especially if they have Arm of Contempt. You need to be Imperial Fist, so you can ignore that cover. Otherwise they will be saving so great. So you have to remove the cover, you get some extra hits with Exploding Sixes, which is great. So being able to ignore cover can be key. When you're hitting Armor of Contempt, then you want to play offensively. So Imperial Fist is one I go with quite often for my offensive one. I will do White Scars for the offensive one as well, so you can advance and charge. You can fall back and charge also from that one. So those are my two main offensive ones that I use quite often. And I try to save them up. Round 1 actually most of the times will be a defensive one. Or maybe staying in Xenos Hunter just to save the great ones for later on. The defensive ones are mainly Black Templars and Warded, because you want that 5 of Feel No Pain against Mortal Wounds, because Mortal Wounds into our army is expensive. It does so much damage. So against Tyranids, against Harlequins, against 1,000 Suns that do a lot of mortal wounds, or maybe Tau that also do a lot of mortal wounds. You want to be able to use Warded for a 5 of Feel No Pain, or Black Templars for a 5 of Feel No Pain, and reroll charge moves. Also, being new Salamanders, turning off rerolls to wound can be great. So I flex between which turn it is and what I need to do mainly. And I only go Xenos Hunters if I don't have to do anything especially else. It's so rarely that you need your whole army to be able to reroll wounds against something, and rerolling hits in melee you're doing anyhow, because you have the Chaplain there and you have your Watchmaster giving you full rerolls to hit in melee. So that rerolling ones in melee isn't that potent. And the other piece, which you have bought in before the game, all the upgrades on your different teams, that is a bought point upgrade, and that doesn't get affected if you change your not being in Xenos Hunters. What do you think about Corvus Blackstar? Yeah, I played it a lot in the last Warzone, not Nephilim, but Nachtmund. Because then we needed to be in our enemy's backfield, so it was great, flying in, like shooting off something in the backfield from their small objective, like small forces like Repentia or just cultists or things that's holding back the objective, so you can shoot them after objective drops down something, charge in, score your teleport homers. So it was great in Nachtmund. I think it could have some play here as well. But during these games, when I play so passively, staying back, going for Long Vigil and Banners, the actual Corvus will not score me so many points. Maybe if I want to go with behind enemy lines for battlefield supremacy, I could fly in and drop something off. But I can do that for 1 CP as well, with the teleport strat, and still have all my kill teams and not pay the premium cost for the flyer. So I like the Corvus Blackstar. I played it in my last army before Nachtmund, before Nephilim, and it has some cool plays. I don't think I can fit it right now because I'm so happy with the army now, and I wouldn't know what to remove. Removing the HQs, which are so great at buffing, I wouldn't want to do that, and I think I need all the other kill teams to be able to score the points and do damage. And being in the enemy backfield isn't that important with our current situation on the secondary. We will win the game anyhow. He needs to come to us. It can do a lot of damage. It can in their backfield, and it could disrupt his game and force him to move back to his home objective. So it could have great play. But playing the strategy that I do now, playing long vigil and banners, staying back and forcing him to come to me so I can kill him, that is 3 things I'm doing, and then the Corvus will not do so many bonus things for me going forward. I addressed one of the questions earlier that was about starting with 1 CP. I talked about that in the beginning. For you guys listening in now, I'm starting with 1 CP in this tournament instead of 2 like I did in Norrköping. But what I learned in Norrköping was that I don't so often turn 1 use Specialist Extremis, especially if I'm going first, because then I can't see anything. So if I go second, now I still have 3 CP and can do the Specialist Extremis. So bringing Tomb of Ectoclades, being able to have the reroll reroll all wounds for 1 data sheet for the whole army if I'm positioning right, brings so much more to the table instead of being able to do Specialist Extremis round 1 going first when I can't see anything with 1 unit. So that is okay with going down to 1 CP. See if I missed some other question here. Just write in chat if I missed something. Reserves or not. Now when we have so few CP, as before I talk in the difference between Nachtmund and Nephilim. In Nachtmund, we wanted to be in the enemy's backfield, scoring those behind the enemy lines, deploy teleport homer, and those kind of. So you would combat squad, you would have the teleport homer on all your Proteus kill teams, being able to redeploy them easily. You would use the stratagem for 1 CP to bring out things into deep strike and come down. But now in Nephilim, I played a more passive game. We can still be very aggressive in the midboard and killing the enemy there, but scoring long vigil and banners. I don't have to put anything to reserves. The only thing that goes into reserves right now is if I deploy my Spectre skill team in forward deploy, I go second, and I can't hide them well in the backfield. I might take them out to reserves, and they can move in the next in round 2 instead. So that's with the reserves. I want to save the CP. I don't want to spend any CP putting anything in the reserves from the beginning, because also we have the strat, the teleportarium, battlefield teleportarium for 1 CP. You can use that round 1 to bring something out into deep strike for 1 CP. So then it's more flexible. If it's come down to that you can't hide the army due to the terrain, and you want to be able to hide a key unit that is key for your strategy, that would be the only time I would bring something out from the beginning. If you're facing maybe knights and they can shoot you off the table if you can't hide everything, maybe it's worth spending that 1 last CP to hide something in reserves, 1 of our 10 bricks. I think that is it for the questions right now as well. Thank you, Marcin, for sending all the questions in beforehand, and for joining in here in chat as well, making it a bit dynamic, having someone to talk to during the actual stream as well. So thank you a lot for that. I hope you enjoyed the stream. It was quite long. It's over an hour now. As I said before, hit me up on either the Deathwatch Discord, Mikael Kla, or in Facebook Messenger, Mikael Kla, Kla, for English, not in Swedish. and I try to answer the questions. And thanks to Tremor Swisshammer for all the great credits he gives me in his videos. He just released the interview we did last week as well, with 5 some questions, and that is much shorter, so you can just watch that one for a more compact thing. This takes so much long. And also I want to give creds to Rick at Noobhammer for all the great interview he does for the community as well. So it's such a small community, it's such great to be a Deathwatch player. We have a tight community and we help each other out, and all the content that these 2 guys produce is great, and learned me a lot during these 2 years, going from being a fresh player to now actually going pretty well in the tournaments. Comes a lot from watching games, learning my enemies, learning my army. So I've been playing the same army with small tweaks the whole year, and just repeating training with it, and also training with enemy armies. I have 6 armies now, so I play them a lot just to learn the enemy, and I watch a lot of streaming here when I'm sitting and painting, learning my enemy. So that is my tips for today. So thank you all for tonight. It's been a pleasure, and talk to you again. See you out there. Thanks for tonight.